I obviously don't give a damn about printers, right? I don't give a damn about Windows computers either.
Yeah.
Um, quite frankly, with Cosmos, truly their AI bus is great. If you ask this thing a question, it'll do what it has to do like rather quickly too. So like if they continue to iterate on that and these models get better, we didn't even talk about the fact that this has Gemini Flash and you could ask it to like do things, right? So like
Right.
if they can iterate, continue on all this, and the models continue to improve, and they continue to think about things. I do think there's going to be some great things going on there, as long as they have the support and the execution.
Welcome to another episode of Runtime and FI podcast. My name is Sophia Tung. As always, I am joined by Zac Hall. Zac, it's been a week.
Literally, it's been 7 days.
Yeah, it literally has been 7 days. You are right about that. But it has also been another week in Apple and tech news in general, and AI news in general, and AI hardware news in general. We're going to have a community insider from Humane.
A humane adjacent community.
Humane adjacent community insider to talk about what's going on later on in the show.
My question to you, Sophia, is do you know? I was asking you in general, like, do you know what's happened in Apple today?
In general,
But we can make this the show, though. This is the show.
let's see. 16E, no?
Yeah, but today, though, there's like news today.
What
Yeah.
happened today?
I love
don't
this
know.
time zone situation where I'm in the future.
Yeah, I can't believe you're like 2 hours in the future. This is unacceptable.
So I will, against my best effort to not make this an Apple podcast from my point of view, I will attempt to recap this week in Apple in 3 hours or less.
3 real hours, but maybe like around 20 minutes for the listeners at home.
I'm going for 2 minutes.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'll
Yeah,
hold you to that.
yeah. But first, I want to ask, how was your week, Sophia? How are you doing?
I've been doing okay. The weather is back to temperate here, so I am chilling.
That's wonderful, Sophia. If you recall, last week I was in a sauna, aka
Yes.
my office at home, and this week I'm in long sleeves because it's gone from 80 to 30.
Classic.
I'm happy about the 30, but it's just, you measure time based on podcast recordings, this one's a doozy.
Yeah, I was amazed last week that you did not literally just keel over and pass out. I was
It's
very
coming in
impressed.
June and July and August and September.
Yeah, this is why like people always like when they come to San Francisco, they're like, "What should I wear?" And I'm just like, you just really need one shirt for the entire time you're here because it's always the same temperature.
First time I was in San Francisco, it was for WWDC 2013, in the
Wow.
year 2013. It would have been the first week in June, and it was chilly in the morning, which I thought was amazing for June compared to like the American South where it's hot and humid for
Yeah.
half the year. And the only problem with that was that I had on a light jacket, and everywhere I went indoors was like flaming hot because they had the heat on for like 50-degree weather. Like, no, this is worse.
Yeah. Here in San Francisco, we say we have a thing called microclimates, which is every 2 blocks, the temperature in the city changes. And so every time you go out, you always need a jacket, but you always need short sleeves underneath. So this is my San Francisco attire. Always a jacket, always short sleeves underneath.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a zombie today, too. I feel thoroughly unprepared to be viewed or heard. I even came to the show with a glass of chocolate milk to maybe like find my center and my inner peace.
Oh, so that's what it was. Okay, I thought it was coffee, but
Yeah, no, coffee would be smart too.
no, but I hear you though. Like I don't drink coffee, like no caffeine, nothing carbonated. It's just like my
Yeah,
personal preference.
good for
So
you.
every single time I need energy, I'm just like, all right, chalky milk time.
One of the reasons that I'm a bit of a zombie, I told you before the show, is I might have had a couple of hours of sleep between yesterday and today. And it's because my older brother, Chris, today's his birthday, turns 37.
Oh
So
wow. Happy
happy
birthday to
birthday to
him.
him. Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to make it special. I wanted to like to turn, midnight to be like in a cool place. So we were in the French Quarter in New Orleans. Before we knew it, we were watching the sunrise. And
Wow.
It's like I should probably get some sleep before now and podcasts. And so I got a couple hours, and then I woke up like so disoriented and had a Mac OS
Yeah,
update, and then everything was like auto opening and everything was weird.
that'll get you. Those
Made it.
updates,
Yeah. I
those
also
darn
want to address
updates.
the another reason for being a little tired is I gave my dog Nova 3/4 of a haircut. And I found your response to my practice of giving her a 3/4 haircut to be a little bit judgmental.
Hey, come on. I mean, the amount of hair, I'll put this up, but like the
Yeah.
amount of hair in that picture, you could literally have a whole second dog just made out of that hair.
Yeah. And the reason I say 3/4 is because I usually, when I give her a haircut, it's like all of the dogs, it's like all of her hair except for her leg hair. And so she has like big looking legs and like humongous paws compared to her tiny little body. So I haven't yet acquired the energy to complete that haircut. So she's just this big paw little puppy.
And it's so cute. It's so cute.
All right, Sophia, I'm going to attempt to recap this week in Apple in 3 hours or less. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Mark your timer. Set your timer. I don't know. Here we go.
All right, I'll set my timer.
Okay. On Wednesday, Apple announced the new iPhone 16e.
Yep.
It features a 6.1-inch OLED display with an iPhone 14 style notch, Face ID, Apple Intelligence support, of course, and longer battery life than an iPhone 16. And it features a single 48 megapixel fusion camera, which is capable of shooting 1x 48 megapixel shots and 2x 12 megapixel telephoto shots. So sort of two cameras in one, even though it's one at a glance. The iPhone 16e starts at $599 for the 128 gigabyte model. It replaces the $429 64 gigabyte 2022 iPhone SE, which looked like a 2017 iPhone 8, big bezels, forehead and chin, and a home button. Apple has also discontinued the iPhone 14, removing the last home button products as well as the last Lightning port products. The iPhone 14 and iPhone SE 3 were previously discontinued in Europe to comply with the USB-C mandate.
You're at 1 minute.
And yeah, 1 minute. Okay. We're just getting started here. As soon as I find my place, I'm back on track. The iPhone 16. Let me do live shows. Let's do live shows. The iPhone 16e is available in black or white. It's available for pre-order from today, and it ships on February 28th. That's 1 week from today, Friday. Also, please do not buy the iPhone 15. It's $100 more. It has 2 gigabytes less of RAM and has a 2 generations behind processor, the A16 Bionic. The iPhone 16e has the A18. So, if you think about it, like the iPhone 10 kind of feels like not so long ago, and it doesn't run iOS 18 or iOS 17 because the internals are too old, too slow. And I imagine if you buy an iPhone 15 in 2025, you will lose feature iOS support faster than you would if you bought an iPhone 16e in 2025 for $100 less, even though the 15e has like some different things about it. The most important, like specs, RAM and processor, are significantly like behind compared to what the 16e offers. The most notable hardware omission from the iPhone 16e is built-in MagSafe. It's not there. MagSafe's been around since 2000 something with the iPhone 12. You fact check it. It was literally 2000 something. 20 maybe, 21. I don't know.
I
Fact check
believe
all
it.
that.
Yeah.
But case makers are at least providing accessory attachment support that can work with wallets and mounts. So that was sort of the big like, wait, what? You're removing a magnet? It has wireless charging, but not the
Yeah.
magnet. Apple even has a case that has no magnet, but other case makers, like every other case maker, I think my theory is that they just assume that they're being MagSafe, so why not include MagSafe? And now they're just like, our cases have MagSafe, and you can attach a wallet to it or a pop socket or put it on a charging stand. I don't know if you'd be able to do like put a battery pack on the back of it and have it work, but we'll learn more as the phone ships.
Yeah. Only with the case, I would think.
Right, exactly, with the case,
Yeah.
I would imagine. Otherwise, it just has to like lay flat and be
Yeah.
like precise. So that's
Sort
no
of a weird
good.
omission.
The most notable hardware inclusion is that it features Apple's new C1 chip, which is the first Apple-designed modem. This begins the transition away from Qualcomm, but the C1 5G modem is not as capable as the current Qualcomm modems inside the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, for example. So there's not like millimeter wave 5G, which is, I think, only like Verizon customers in very specific locations on the planet. So not a big deal. The one thing that I really want to see from the iPhone 16e, hang on, I'm lost again. Oh my God. Hello, hi. I'm a zombie.
Yeah.
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 You're at 4 minutes. I
26
really am
minutes.
timing you.
I believe you. I believe you. Yeah, I don't know if the 16 even has a timer at this point. So yeah, you know. Okay, I'm gonna reboot that one. The most notable hardware inclusion is that the most notable hardware inclusion is that Apple's new iPhone 16e has the C1 chip, which is Apple's first custom designed modem. So they've made the processor for the longest time, and now they're making the cellular modem. This begins the transition away from Qualcomm, but the C1 5G modem is not as capable as the current Qualcomm chips in the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, for example. For that reason, only in the iPhone 16e for now, sort of a test bed. But we may see the C1 chip again soon in the rumored ultra-thin iPhone 17 Air. The idea seems to be that it's more compact than using Qualcomm's chip, but it's also like you don't want to put it in your main product in case there's issues to be resolved. That is the first generation version of this. And just for background, like Apple bought Intel's modem business years ago, and they've been working on this modem for the longest time, and they finally released it with the C1. So that's pretty cool. What I really want to see, though, is the C1 chip put inside of the M4 MacBook Air, which has not been announced yet. How cool would that be for the C1 chip to be inside of a MacBook Air?
But yeah, I mean, people have been asking for this like forever, just like a MacBook that's capable of like telecommunication.
Yeah. Just let me do it. Hotspot sucks. Like let me see one my way through this thing.
But
So speaking of the MacBook Air M4, it's still expected to be announced any week now. Hopefully with the C1 chip. It's my idea. I'm making it happen. Meanwhile, macOS Sequoia Beta, this is from today, by the way, brings the updated Mail app to the Mac. This is the version of Mail that has like the categories that it intelligently puts Mail into.
boy,
So that's there, and the newest macOS Sequoia beta as of Friday. iOS 14 is also available in beta today. It brings a new cooking section to the Apple News Plus app called Food. And I think this has been like reported for a while that Apple's working on a sort of a recipe app. And this seems like what that is it's the food section because it's kind of like this app experience within the News Plus app.
interesting.
So it's like slowly becoming what a newspaper magazine is, but from Apple. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then Apple Vision Pro now has a dedicated app on the iPhone, sort of like the Apple Watch app on the phone. Now there's an Apple Vision Pro app for the iPhone. It's going to be better for managing things, I suppose. Speaking of the Apple Vision Pro, Apple Intelligence now works on the Apple Vision Pro as a Vision OS 2.4 beta, which that's a big deal because Vision OS never was promised to have Apple Intelligence support. It was just the Mac, the iPad, the iPhone. And so there was a curiosity, okay, it has 16 gigabytes of RAM, so will it be able to in the future? I don't know. Turns out it will when Vision OS 2.4 ships out of beta in April. That's the timeline that Apple's kind of given for that. So that's really cool. Apple Vision Pro, Apple Intelligence, big synergy there. There's also a new spatial gallery app coming to Vision OS, and this is going to be one place where you can find spatial videos and photos and content. And so it's easier to sort of see what is spatial all about on the Apple Vision Pro. And speaking of figuring out what Apple Vision Pro is all about, guest mode has been greatly improved. You can now see what people trying your Apple Vision Pro can see through your iPhone or your iPad, which is like what the Apple Store does for a demo. Now they've made that available to customers. It's also what like Meta Quest can do. Like when my daughter had her first Meta Quest headset, I could watch what she saw and couldn't do that as easily with the Apple Vision Pro without like mirroring it to the TV. So that's some cool stuff there.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more, but that's what I've got for you, Sophia. That's the Apple news of this week and today.
And time. So that was 8 minutes and 9 seconds.
Check it out.
Not bad, not bad.
Any
That's
thoughts?
pretty good. Yeah, I will say like the screen mirroring thing, I was a little bit surprised that they didn't ship that, as like the 1.0. Every single VR headset I've had has had it, one way or another. Like both of my Quests, like Quest 1 and 2, and also my Vive, which I do still also have. You could see what people are seeing inside the headset. And I was like a little bit surprised, but I guess if Apple was positioning it as a thing that, was very personal and had to align to your eyes automatically and through all of that jazz, then I can sort of see why they wouldn't have done it to begin with, but it was definitely an an omission, and I think good on them for finally including it.
What do you think about Apple Intelligence on Apple Vision Pro?
I will be honest. Sorry, pause.
Are those two things that you just don't use
Yeah,
in
I
the same
don't.
sentence?
Apple Intelligence on the Vision Pro, I didn't technically see a reason why they wouldn't have brought it over, but at the same time, I was sort of thinking like they're saving this for like the second hardware iteration. Like that's gonna be the sell. But if they're bringing it here on the first hardware revision, then I guess they don't necessarily intend to make a second hardware revision anytime soon. Right? Like that would be my thought.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there was also news that Apple Intelligence got backported to the iPhone 15. Is that true?
Well, so it's not the 15, but it's been on the 15 Pro since like when Apple announced Apple Intelligence in beta for iOS 18 last June. It was before the 16 phones were announced.
Okay, okay,
And
okay,
so
yeah.
it was only on the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. What
Right,
has
right, right.
gotten backported is the iPhone 16e has the visual intelligence feature, but no camera control button, which is how you activate visual intelligence on the 16 Pro. And
Right.
so it's assigned to the action button or in Control Center. And so Apple's bringing that feature to the Apple iPhone 15 Pro because it's like, well, if the 16e can do it, then why can't the 15 Pro, which has Apple Intelligence otherwise? And so that's coming to the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. The thing that is still kind of out there is like, what about the iPad, which is a camera
Yeah,
and runs
right.
Apple Intelligence? Put that in Control Center too. Although visual intelligence is like, I think every individual piece of Apple Intelligence is like kind of not a big deal. And if it wasn't this suite of features across the OS, then, we wouldn't talk about it in the same way. And also,
Yeah.
probably like the biggest feature of Apple Intelligence, as far as Siri is concerned, is this like on-device context awareness, and where you can ask about, the Apple example is a flight that you've only mentioned in a text message and through an email, and you can ask about it, and it'll tell you like immediately with this very nice presentation. And so that's not part of iOS 18.4, which means it won't come out in April. It will probably be iOS 18.5 if it ships on time and works in like, I don't know, May, right before iOS 19 becomes available.
Yeah. The timeline of this integration is, I feel like a lot of the stuff is maybe a little bit backwards. Like the stuff that they decide to release and when they decide to release it. I would have thought like the contextual awareness thing, like the actual most useful thing, they would have shipped first, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously they don't have it ready yet
Yeah,
in a working
clearly.
state,
Yeah.
but I think they're also not, on a schedule that they had expected, even though it was like reported from to be a 2025 feature release. Seems like it could
Yeah.
very easily slip into iOS 19 like beta availability at least.
You think it's going to?
I don't know. It's a bummer it wasn't here today, so maybe it'll be in a future version of iOS 18.4 beta. Otherwise, we're looking at probably like April beta, and then like a May
Yeah.
release. And there is that period of like iOS 18 still out before iOS 19 comes out in September. Um, and then you got to like sync up the betas for the release version. That
Yeah.
might kind of gets messy, but might be what we see happen. And
I
then
just think it's tough. Like
yeah,
they're behind, right? But like they're becoming more and more behind, I guess.
they
I
also
mean,
have to have this like round two, year two of Apple Intelligence to be
yeah.
announced in June. And like they're
Like
still working on the original stuff from last year, like different teams, I imagine, but it's not a great
yeah.
position to be in.
It's just tough. Like you look at the capabilities on like Android, for example, and like not so much on like Windows or anything, but like you know, Microsoft seems to be moving forward with a bunch of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly it's like significantly harder to bake these features into an OS in like a privacy conscious sort of way, on device, whatnot. But at the same time, it's like, you've lost the race already. Like,
Yeah. I mean, Apple, on earnings calls, Tim Cook will say we have a hybrid approach with AI where we don't have this, big capital spend like everyone else has, where we're developing in-house, only. Like we're also the platform where AI runs from these other
Right.
companies with these big like capex spends. But it's to be hybrid, you have to, you've got two approaches, and one of your approaches is fine, and the other one is not performing as well. So we'll see what the future holds there. What do you think about the iPhone 16e name?
What does E stand for?
Everyone,
That's my main thing.
yeah,
It's like that meme with Markiplier, but he's more Lord Farquaad. This is getting into meme culture, but it's like, the deep fried meme where it's like Markiplier, but he's like sort of Lord Farquaad, and then there's like giant E on it. I'll throw it up on the screen for
yeah,
the viewers at home. But
yeah,
it's a weird one. But yeah, what does it mean?
nothing at all, according to Apple. I think that the person who names the iPhone 16e, has an idea in mind.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure.
the people that say answer the question, what does it mean? They don't know that, and so they say officially nothing. There was the iPhone 5C, which was so clearly color.
Yeah.
There was the iPhone 10R, which was a revised version of the iPhone 10, but a lesser version than the iPhone 10s. And so what's one letter below S? R. And it wasn't as good as the iPhone 10 was. So it was really just like iPhone remix,
That is a
recycled.
stretch. I think that one's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah. But E, you know, the name
Express?
leaked about a month before. And, they've had some time to adjust to it. And I mean, this essentially is the iPhone SE 4 in a new form factor. It'd
Hmm.
be like the second form factor change for the iPhone SE, which is the, older design with current model specs that Apple keeps around for 3 or 4 years. So we could see like the next iPhone of this, class be the iPhone 20. So I'm looking forward to that in a few
The
years.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My guess would be
We'll
there's
see what
not
that
another
holds.
16E. There's not like another E model in the future. This is it.
Yeah, this is the one-off, right?
Yeah. Yep. So a lot of cool stuff there. I'm really anxious about the the MacBook Air M4 coming out. I really wanted to have a C1 chip with Sailor. I think that would be so compelling, and it'd make the wait for the M4 MacBook Air worth it, because like the M4 has been out since the iPad Pros from last year. So that's been a while. Like we know what the M4 is, and then the M4 Pro and Macs have been in the Pro machines. So it's like what's going on with the MacBook Air, and Apple gave it a rev with the M2 and M3 version to double the RAM from 8 to 16 gigabytes without increasing the cost. So that's kind of like a nice way to upgrade it mid-cycle. Yeah, I feel like it won't have the nano texture like matte display that the Pro models have with the M4 Pro versions, but because it's a cheaper model, that's just might be how Apple differentiates it. But C1 chip would be huge.
Yeah. Let me just say this. I will bet you one chocolate milk that it won't have a C1 chip in it.
I mean, yeah, yeah, probably right. But I can hope though. I can dream.
Yeah.
We would have heard about it by now if it were to happen. Yeah. So that's what I've got for this week in Apple. It's from a 9 to 5 Mac perspective, it has been a busy and fun, eventful week. The iPhone 16 stuff was pretty cool for Wednesday, and then all of the beta stuff came out on Friday when we had our interview on the calendar,
Hmm.
and I was dead tired, and it was just not ideal timing.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure it was fun for you.
I mean, I mostly just like had to sit on the sidelines for it, which is a bummer, but that's why I gave you my recap.
Well, I appreciate the recap. It was good to catch up. I'm sure the listeners appreciate it as well. Well, in non-Apple related news, Humane, the company that made the AI pin, the pin that was supposed to go on all of your clothes and be more of like an ambient computer, it has been announced that they are shutting it down. They're basically effectively breaking it for all of their two customers and they're selling themselves to HP. So, look, I will be the first to say that while the vision of the product didn't necessarily pan out that the way everybody, or I guess at least the way that Humane thought they would. I sort of like the hardware. Like I would be one of the people, like if it had worked as advertised and not like consistently overheated and, actually been useful, and if the information provided had like actually, been factually correct and all of that in the advertisements, I would have sort of been into it. And the price is a little bit hard to swallow. $800 for that thing is a little bit tough. But if it had been maybe like $200 or something, and they positioned it more as like a phone companion, yeah, I would have been totally into it. Yeah, unfortunately, that is not what happened. And now they're selling Cosmos, or OS that runs on the pin, and a bunch of patents to HP, and forming a brand new division called HP IQ, I believe. And yeah, the rest of the employees, well, some of them, I guess, are getting acqui-hired, which is just a fancy term of like they're moving over to HP. Yeah, so a little bit of an unfortunate end to Humane. But what's interesting is we actually have a guest today on the show who is here to talk with us about what's going on with Humane from the community side, because there are enthusiasts in the community, and the people who got really into it really got into the pin. Their name is Mr. 23, and let's welcome them to the show.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey,
How
how
are
are
you?
you?
good. Thanks for having me.
I'm curious about anything that you want to tell, because obviously, we saw the news through the press and then, the confirmation later. I think yesterday I saw there was a TechCrunch story with some more information about like the instant layoffs, etc. And so all we know is what's been published in the press. And so any light on like what it was like there, what happened in the last, I don't know, days, like how you found out, what's like next, how it affects you, just your overall experience with the company, anything like that you feel like needs to be told, or like, you've got a perspective on that you want to share.
Let's set the stage then.
Sure.
Can you tell us your sort of general involvement around Humane or Inhumane or in the community around it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like a few of other people as well. Essentially, there was a Discord community started right at the very beginning. Well, not the very beginning, in the middle of Humane's startup. And once that began, I joined, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not like an Android dude. I didn't know it was Android at the time, but I was like, I don't know what device you're doing, but I obviously know it's not going to be an Apple operating system, but we'll get invested into this, right? And I was like, the history of, Imran and Bethany, who founded the company, obviously with Apple, is very public. And,
Yeah.
they've been a part of some very amazing products at Apple, right? And so they have a lot of experience. So I decided, this sounds really cool. I'm hoping it's not a phone, right? Because we don't need another phone. There's millions of them. And so it began from there, right? Like I spent a bunch of time right then and there from that day forward, after joining the community at Discord, to kind of going, okay, this is actually pretty cool. We'll see what happens. A couple of years later, after the Discord started, actually a year and a half later, we actually got to see what they were releasing. Yeah, that's really how it started, where it kind of was in the middle. And then, of course, ever since launch, we've kind of been there to support, be there, provide feedback and stuff like that. And it's been pretty interesting and fun, to be honest.
Okay, very cool. When did you first start getting like the inkling of like things maybe aren't going?
Man, here we go. Good question. So yeah, just so you know, sometimes like if you ask a question and I don't answer it, don't be afraid to like re-highlight that, because it's easy. There's so much information the last couple of years that it might just kind of snowball for obvious reasons. Yep. So no big deal. Don't be afraid, please. Well, I think it was pretty obvious I think I would say, so when we saw the pre-order and the fact that it wasn't going to launch until April, that made some of us think, well, it's a startup. I'll give them some slack. All right. So we did, right? I was like, it's not cheap to do. And if what they had shown, because then it was public, right, was that this was an entirely new product. It's never been brought to market. And also, if it looks anything like the videos and photos shows that it looks, it's definitely not easy or cheap. And they probably have to source tooling and all that other stuff that costs a ton of money. So I'm like, all right, cutting them some slack, right? So the first feelings kind of started there. And I was like, okay, all right. Went through that fall and winter. And then April came around and it was launch time, right? But as you saw before the launch, and we all saw, they decided to go on a YouTube run. And they decided to, be there for the YouTubers. I'm not sure if you know this. If you watched any of the videos, you might have caught one or two YouTubers where they actually show them being there in person, right? Founders and, a couple others from Humane that were there as well. And when the reviews came out, I was like, shit,
Yeah.
this is not good. It doesn't sound good. But I also had some reservations, right? Because I was like, how long have they had with this product, right? And they really didn't have that much time with the product. However, that doesn't excuse the fact that it was behaving and overheating the way that it was, right? So, when you're there and people, you have optimism and you have encouragement for them, right? Because you don't want to see a startup fail. To put it in another way, like there was another reason why I got so invested in this. I was like, honestly, yeah, Apple's great. We all know this. As a former Apple employee, duh, right? So Google got some cool stuff going on. Yeah, there's Samsung, cool. But those are like the only three companies making things, right? So I was like, I really do want them to succeed because this thing is really cool. It looks really unique. This is even me before I had it in my hands, right? I was still having that optimism. Like, I don't want three companies dictating the rest of our lives, right? So that's where my thoughts were. And once the reviews came out, I was like, all right, so trying to, have optimism. Let's see what happens. Finally, launch week comes around. I think the reviews came out, 1 or 2 weeks before? It's almost been a year and I don't remember. I haven't looked it up since then. And we got them. And when I got it out of the box, first of all, this is easily one of the most gorgeous boxings and unboxings to exist in the product place. That's outside of Apple, I would say, right? So I was like, okay, you guys are doing a really great job here. Got it out, set it up, and I was like, oh man, setting it up, it overheated. And I was like, oh man, super bummed, right? And look,
Here we go.
yeah, here we go. And I was like, I'm still having optimism, right? They're aware of this. And come to find out, the reason why that this happened in the first place was because they were rushed by inside partners to launch because they had been, in the background for a few years, right? So I was like, wow, this makes complete sense because there's no way that you would ship a product this ingeniously designed. Truly, nothing like it exists. Yes, there's an Apple Watch, but nothing that you can just put on there. You don't have to look at anything. You can just talk to it. You could go on with your day. And if you would like to, you could have the laser display, right? That's just a really cool factor of all things, to be honest. It's not often you're going to be using that nonstop. It's that's where I started to have some really weird feelings. Is there some control here? Is it out of control? Yeah. I was like, okay, if inside partners rush them, I'm still going to continue to be optimistic because if the engineers internally got it this far and it's an Android open source program, there's ways to kind of get this under control, right? So waited around and genuinely in a month, everything was fine, which was really great. So do you want me to continue from there?
Yes, please.
Okay. But that was not easy from people that I know. They busted their ass. And that's what I mean by not easy. They just really had to bust their ass for 3 to 4 weeks to make sure they ironed it out. And now thinking about that and talking to you guys about this, I just remember it. This is where it really stings, honestly, even from a person who's a supporter and from a person who just tried to help. I actually DM'd. I'm not going to say who because that'll definitely dox me. I actually DM'd people at Humane, people that you would hope would like to look at it. Let's just put it that way, and respond to it. And I said something along the lines of, if you give me 1 moment, I said something along the lines of, I got it right in front of me. This was end of 23, beginning of 24. I said essentially, I have a question or idea for you about the AI Pin public launch and testing. Again, this was before YouTube reviews. This was before anybody besides the internal people at Humane had any testing with the AI Pin. I said, wanting to get ahead of Rabbit and others, because Rabbit had just communicated their product, right? So I, just want to contribute and be a part of the community of AI Pin early and publicly post for AI Pin exposure. Because I really was I'm in it, man. I'm supporting it. This product's great. And then I said right after that, there should be like a small group of select people outside of the privileged media cliques that help with launch and feel like that. And I feel like that'll help Humane in the AI pit. Let me know when you see this and we'll share my info or you can get it from others as well. Let's keep going. So the fact that like there was no response there, I kind of get it, right? There's tons of people probably trying to DM them, but at the same time, it's like you have a product that these really passionate supporters are trying to help you with and just provide feedback. We're not asking for anything free. And just to think that if like they would have listened to us, there are some of the geekiest, coolest, smartest mobile techies in that community that could have been like, yo, this thing isn't burning. You guys got to do something about this, right? So it's just a weird feeling that like, and it kind of was a terrible feeling that like they didn't respond and we could have helped them potentially and given them feedback, right? To launch a product that obviously was not ready to ship. And then going back to those engineers, they had to bust their ass for 4 weeks. Everything was good, but that alone in itself kind of says some things about, leadership. When you have leadership, you should absolutely put a shield out there and say, hey, look, I know you guys invested, and I'm just going to say that, all of the investors that won 200 something million dollars into us, that's amazing. And we thank you for that. But if you want this product, to go well, we should probably give us like another 2 or 3 months to launch. And the fact that that didn't happen, it really kind of, really put a highlight on like what's going on there, right? Like, come on, like you guys can do better. So yeah, what do you want me to continue, or like what other questions do you have in your mind right now?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I understand your position from like you think this thing's interesting. It's a new gadget that you want to you're excited about. You want to be able to test it and help this thing. You've got a understanding of what this could be, and so you want to participate and make that something that you contribute toward as well in any capacity. I mean, I requested a review unit early on and never even got
I
a
believe you.
response because I
Yeah,
was like,
I wish I would have known.
this can be, yeah, I was like, this thing could be really cool, and I've got a really good understanding myself of like, I was thinking about situations where sort of ambient compute could be useful driving my kids to school, and they say my son is 6 at the time, and he says what is this trivia fact? And
It's
I'm like, I don't know. I'll look it up when I'm not driving, or I could say, use the pen for that purpose. And so I sort of had like in my head kind of as sort of an optimist for technology, not this is what it's bad at, but I think this is ways that it can be useful. Separate from that though, I mean, and it sounds like it was sort of investor driven to get this thing out early. And this even affected like Apple with the Apple Watch. I mean, they released it about a year too soon before, they had a good product, and that was like, Wall Street
absolutely,
pressure.
absolutely.
So you can imagine that same thing, but like maximized on a startup where it's like, you
Yeah.
live or die by this product. But as someone, in your position where you're like, you're enthusiastic about it and everything, is there any point before even like the sort of like half-baked release where, the early press attention is about just sort of how it's not quite finished? Was there any before launch, like, this is what the hardware will cost, this is what it will cost to use it monthly, this is sort of the technology that Humane owns, and then this is the technology where it relies on, OpenAI's product for it to do, more things? Did you have a sense of like, like this whole thing is cool and interesting, and I hope it works out, but are there like major things that could make this go wrong, even if the product like works as advertised, like, but just the business pitch of it all isn't quite there? Did you have a sense of that at all? Or did anyone have that sense?
Yeah, no, that's a good question actually. When you put it all like that, there were thoughts just like that from many of us who actually are the like super geeky, right? And knowing that at the time, this is literally, think about it. I know that GPT-3 was like what 3.5 was 2022,
Yeah, like
all of
October.
November of 2022, which is crazy. And a year later, they announced the launch. Think about that. And so there were some thoughts there, like, we haven't really seen this integrated anywhere, right? Of course, there were thoughts like that. But at the same time, we also only had so much information that was given from Humane's website, right? And I think at that time, besides knowing like, there could be some uncertainty there. We're not sure how this will go. It's a brand new product. We actually didn't even know it was ASOP, Android open source, until that information came out for the website and launch, essentially, right? So I didn't even know how that would integrate or what that would look like, because if you know anything about mobile devices, right, especially Android, you can simply, do what Perplexity did recently, right? And do some sort of assistant type, build it to the Android device that you're using, right? So I had no idea that would even be a thing. So there was some, of course, uncertainties, but I think it was just more so the lack of information out there. At the same time, we really didn't know what to expect. So we kind of were just kind of hanging in the unknown until we had more information.
Okay. And if you're an engineer on the project, people that you may know, you're not thinking about the business model. You're thinking about your day-to-day work to get this thing to do the thing that's supposed to do in the first place. So I can imagine how that would be just a totally different area of thinking that you might not come across. Also, I kind of have a sense from following Humane through stealth that they wanted to do something that was, take your eyes off the iPhone screen all the time. Even after, I guess the Apple Watch was maybe 2 or 3 years old at that point, but it was even like, go screenless, like less screen time. And that mindset, that idea probably started before, even like ChatGPT 3.5, like before those things were even like, maybe this can be an ingredient in the recipe of AI Pen or like the unnamed product, that became AI Pen. And you can do a lot of things with voice control and just like basic voice input to kind of have a screenless device. So sort of from the outside, it kind of seems like that the AI stuff was almost like an afterthought, but it was like, it became a main ingredient, but it wasn't expected to be part of it the whole time. It was just like, let's lean all in on this AI stuff. Let's catch the AI wave and use that to pitch what this is. And I think that's good, and that it probably helped HP decide to buy the company, after a year, because AI is the flavor everyone wants, but that it could have existed all on its own without AI, and that it probably for the lead up to its development was just less about like, let's call it AI, and more about ambient computing and less time in front of your screen, less reliance on your screen. Do you have a sense of like what that was like? Or from your involvement, from your exposure, it was like, this point, AI is baked into it. This is just how it would always work, of course. What do you think about that?
Another great thing to bring up, because we've actually had these conversations before. And people, so you can imagine when you have a Discord community like that and it's open and anybody can join, the amount of people that come in and troll and hate or ask questions, So that actually came up quite a bit. There's actually, this is pretty wild. I guess this is a really interesting conversation we're having, because there's a side of me that we're talking about these other things, right? But there's also a side of me that knows how actually great a lot of this stuff was after things were ironed out and like using the product for nearly a year, right? And not just being persuaded by the YouTube's first week reviews, right? So, and then there's this other side that like, I'm very involved with the community. So this question is really interesting to me, because there is Imran talking about AI before ChatGPT was really popular in 2022. And you can find the article on the web. So that's actually really interesting to think about. Somehow, I don't know if, I obviously don't know the details on this, but I'm thinking about like, he obviously has connections and they have connections, right, across Silicon Valley. And maybe there was some inclination of, we're either going to use, this is a thought, I have no clue, Google's Assistant, because it's an Android open source program. It's going to be our smart assistant, right? And it's going to be screenless. Maybe that was a thought. Or, hey, there's this like rumbling chat GPT startup or OpenAI, startup that we should try to see that brings this product together. It somehow, it just wasn't an afterthought, which actually is really interesting to think about. But I can share that article with you later. It's actually really crazy when you think about it. And it's a weird place for me, because like they did so many things right, but then there's like things that I feel like leadership and we all know there's internal politics, right? Everywhere that might have, just made a lot of this go on. So yeah.
Yeah. I think, opening as Sam Altman was among the investors, at least. That
Yeah.
makes sense
OpenAI
that there'd be
definitely
that
was a
connection.
partner. I don't know when that happened, obviously, but
Yeah. I think Altman, like, privately was an investor.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would make that connection. What do you think, Sophia?
I know it's really interesting to talk about, right? Also, now that we're in between questions and I know you guys chopping up, I have been watching your guys' stuff, by the way, which is also the Waymo stuff. I know that you get this all the time. That's super fun. But yeah, if you have other things you could think about, we could talk about it. Like, it's weird because, like, I'm not here to just talk straight up smack about Humane, right? I'm here to just give some information, but there's so much good I could share as well. It's like,
Yeah.
I wish that this hasn't happened. I wish that, that we could continue to have the Humane AI pin. I guess I'll throw this in here because I think Sophia is thinking of a question, right?
Yeah, yeah, please continue.
Yes.
I'll,
We
yeah.
actually, at this current moment, we actually are super bummed, obviously. So this is some more, like, I guess you could say, not so good news about Humane, right? We're bummed about what happened. There are a lot of us who are like, shit, we've been using this device every day since April, right? It has gotten so damn good. It has been solid since the end of April, beginning of May after launch. We've been paying for the subscription for the Humane prepaid, well, it's just called Humane Network, right? It's T-Mobile, right? They're an MVNO prepaid setup for G and unlimited calls and texts, and unlimited data. It's just been a good part of our life. And quite frankly, even though I'm all a part of the mobile community, and when I say mobile, I mean like iPhone, iPad, WebOS days, and Palm, all that stuff, right? Super
Man,
Geeky,
yeah.
Pebble, stuff like that. So I have the best iPhones every year since the beginning of iPhone. I get a new iPhone. So it's like, you would think I wouldn't give it, damn it all, right? But it's like, man, it was so great. To be quite frankly, this is what Siri should have been, but never was. But I have this iPhone 16 Pro 18.4 that just dropped this morning. I haven't had a chance to update my iPhone yet, but it's like, is that going to be what I want? Am I still going to want to be tied to this screen? And it's like, there's so many times where I've just been using it. I'd be like, this is so great. I didn't have to pull anything out of my pocket. I can literally ask a quick question or take a picture or a video. Yes, it was only 15 seconds, but hey, it was great. We're having all these feelings, and, like, quite frankly, no joke, I have all the AI pin. I'm crazy. I have all the colorways. And so, like, the reason why I did it, it's like, a lot of us are like, man, if you ever get a chance to hold one or see one or get a demo, Sophia, if you want to sometime, probably meet up with the day if you haven't yet.
Yeah, I would love to get a demo,
Yeah, I mean, you
yeah.
can see the laser, you can all that. That'll be shut off before the end of the month. And so we're having all these feelings because we just love it. It's like such a cool, unique, one of a kind, beautiful device that, like, we're like, thought to myself when I saw the news, because it dropped, and I was like, shit, right? I was texting people that I have contacts with. Wow, I just said shit to, like, all of them. Did you see what happened? Shit. Did you see what happened? Shit. Did you see what happened? And they were like, shit as well. And I know, from what I understand, is they didn't know until, like, they had a 15-minute all hands meeting, right? Like, right before it happened. So after knowing all of that, I was like, I'm not going to sit around and just, like, let this become a paperweight, right? So I already created a Discord. We already have a bunch of people in there, and we're already providing feedback to Humane. And there are some people listening internally because they're also advocating, because they don't want to become paperweights, to kind of open this up via OTA and see if we can start to do this kind of re-pebble / re-humane type of thing, right? And get it to work. So there's a lot of us in there right now having a lot of conversations, and that's the current status of, like, the community and, like, these gorgeous devices that were not absolutely cheap at all.
Yeah. As someone who's maybe just super into the idea of this thing, and you like the actual product, it's like, if more people had this experience, they would get it. Besides just disappointment, this is kind of a bummer. Like, from a customer perspective, like, if you spend $600 and then you buy the different colorways and everything. I've never had that experience where, like, something that costs that much becomes within less than 12 months of the product going public.
It has not been 12 months, no.
Right. Yeah. It was
10 months.
April last year, and we're only in February.
10 months, literally. So what you're asking me, like, what are my other thoughts on that?
Well, like, I just just wonder. I don't know Humane customers that aren't press. I know some people who bought them who are press, but for the purpose of like reviewing it and that kind of
Of
thing.
course, right? And they're not using it like probably near, not even close to what we've used it.
Right. So it's obviously disappointing that it goes away, that after less than a year, it stops to function the way that it did before. But is that kind of like baked into the idea of you're buying from a startup, a product that's never existed before? It's like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. But part of us obviously didn't want that. We were like, I have signed some NDAs, Noble, like and some others, right? So because we're a part of, here's what I can say: we're part of tests after the fact, after the launch, after the YouTube reviews, after they got stuff ironed away. We were contributing to things and giving feedback, and they were implementing them, and they were putting their twists on them. And then there was stuff that they were doing that we didn't even give feedback on. So like, we are just like super like, we thought we would continue to have a product this year.
there was momentum building.
Yeah, we thought like we were, to put it this way, we were waiting on a new beta that would drop literally in 2 weeks. And so we were expecting this year to be another year of updates. Who knows if there's a Gen 2 going to be announced? Quite frankly, we gave them enough feedback on hardware that they should have had an idea. And here we are. Yeah, I get it. Like at the same time, like we're bummed and upset, but at the same time, like money does need to be there to operate and continue. So yeah.
What are your early expectations for what the hardware could do now that it's just something that you own, doesn't have, after the end of this month won't have, much of a function? What do you think is possible that you could? I imagine you can't do nearly everything, but
Yeah.
there's probably something like, even with the laser display, like
Yeah.
what do you expect to be possible going forward with the hardware if you already have one?
Literally nothing but asking like on device things. So like charging it, you can charge it obviously, right? They're not going to keep you off from charging it via OTA or anything. Only if there was a fire hazard, which of course happened, which I guess we didn't mention that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
That
If it
Yeah,
ever
that
got
was on my
resolved.
list.
So let's pause on that, and I'll just go to the fire thing real quick. I can't dog them too much, or I don't think anybody should dog them too much on the fire. The potential fire that they recalled on a couple of products they saw that were pretty warm, because this happens to trillion-dollar companies like Apple and Google and Microsoft and everybody else, and B, it's like they're a startup. This battery that's in this AI pin and in the battery boosters, this isn't off the shelf. This is actually even different than the Apple Watch battery. The Apple Watch battery obviously is probably like, unless you have an Ultra, maybe like 70% of the AI pin battery. I don't know, in like, dimension and stuff. So all of that is custom. And when you're working with that, it's like, man, like that sucks. That also really put like a dent, obviously, in the overall, what's the word I'm looking for, perception of Humane, which really sucked. That actually stung as a supporter, because they really did iron it out, and then that happened, and we're just like, dude, we've already taken like a massive gut punch from the reviews, and like now this happens. So anywho, that happened. That was a bummer. You can't really dog them too much on that, because there's a bunch of factors in play there, right? So, but it did not help the perception whatsoever, and it wasn't a good feeling overall. But glad they put the recall out there. So now that they're literally the end of this month, which hilariously isn't, yeah, it's the shortest month of the year. So they couldn't even do it in a month. It was 30 or 31 days. That's pure, just not good luck. But you'll be able to do on-device things like, ask. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't put this in the press release, but I also haven't cared to try it yet, because we are going to go hat crazy on this. And just so you know, we're making pretty good headway.
Oh, nice.
And so you can ask like stuff like, like this, they said in the press release, battery percentage. You should be able to ask the time, as long as, I think if they have it, I don't know, because we haven't had to think about this or care about this, right? But if it's connected to a Wi-Fi network, which it will be able to still, obviously, it should be able to keep it in sync with time, right? So it could be something that I could use for time, right? The laser ink, I didn't see anything on there that said anything about that. And I also would be shocked if for some reason that also stopped working. That would be ridiculous, because it's all built in. So you should still be able to like have some novelty of like, if you can't like or don't want to talk to it, you could laser in and see the time real quick or something. The GPS is built into this. Just so you know, there's a Qualcomm modem in here. That's what it is. So it's it's a mobile phone modem, right? So like there's GPS in here. So like I don't know if the backend services that it uses to communicate from location will be able to show me at least like nearby locations, not via voice or their AI bus system, which has a couple AIs and routes it for you, right? So stuff like that, honestly, we'll be able to take pictures and videos, I would hope. But here's the thing, with their backend services, that goes directly to their, let's just call it's called dot center. You can refer to it as like an iCloud.com or whatever Google has and stuff, right? It most likely is going to get shut off as well.
Right.
So there's only so much we could do without the services cut off, and that's the reason why the Discord space has been started as well, though.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm really interested in the Discord and what you said you're making early headway there.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm super curious about is what can this thing do after everything's turned off? Because it's just a curiosity of this has it happened recently?
Yeah, totally. And I guess to say this, a lot of people don't know this because they didn't care to follow the product because that was their opinion in life, right? And they just wanted to like have their iPhone and stuff, which is whatever. It's cool. It's their choice. The thing is, this thing is actually like pretty solidly locked down. You have to know like certain things on the device to get into it. I don't know if you saw iFixit's teardown, but you should watch it if you haven't. It's really interesting. It'll show you a lot about the product and how much they actually time they put into it. But at the same time, they did actually from the factory have a chip fused onto it to encrypt it, similar to what Apple does with, the secure enclave and all that stuff, right? So you would have to desolder that and hope on everything it doesn't just completely brick it and you are unable to flash it. But if you flash, you're not going to have any of the custom OS there. So there's a lot of intricacies there. And that's why we're hoping that they're going to give us some flexibility via OTA so that we don't have these turned into paperweights. So yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, it almost sounds to me like you could do kind of a do-it-yourself AI pen. I
guess we could kind of lead into there too before other questions happen. That's the goal. The goal it's really interesting. People who left Humane are actually in our server, and they are wanting to assist in like not also having these become paperweights. And there's some other people who said, yeah, I'll actually support an open backend server for this. So it's like, if we have some really kick-ass people in there already, like really smart, both hardware and software. So the goal would be obviously to figure out how we could kind of throw some of our own, of the popular LLMs out there and figure out how we can do that and make it work. Because quite frankly, the AI bus truly is badass. And that's clearly why they got bought from HP.
Gotcha. I was even thinking like, if you like the idea of the AI pen, but you could do something that's, if you wanted to make one yourself, where you had a small group of enthusiasts that you just, you made it from scratch with your own materials and your own chip and everything. Like, I don't know what you can do with the Raspberry Pi, but I imagine there's.
I know what you mean.
You could rebuild it from scratch, the same idea, but have it be a product that you fully control and.
That would be cool. I will say this though, a lot of us the reason why this Discord exists is not only because we're bummed and sad and stuff, because we want to have another place, because they're gonna sunset that Discord that has routes 16,000 people there. So that's not the only reason to have the Discord, is to have some people to join our other ones and stay in touch. But it's because I cannot emphasize this enough. This hardware does not exist outside of Apple. Like, if we did our own custom thing, it would be really awesome. But the reason why we don't is because this thing is super great. It's super solid. The materials are insane. It's probably another reason why they kind of went in the hole pretty quick if they didn't sell enough units, because they did not really cheap out on anything here. So yeah, I'm sure somebody probably will try to do something, but we've seen these other startups try this and nothing comes close.
Yeah, and there hasn't yet, I say besides Humane and Rabbit, I haven't seen like bespoke AI hardware. They've got there's a report that Johnny Ive was working with OpenAI on maybe even just sort
of
into
that conversation.
Yeah, even just exploring AI hardware, but like it's Apple's position, with the iPhone and
or Apple Watch or AirPods, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
I think before we get into other
topics,
topics. What do you think about the claim, let's say, that all of these bespoke AI hardware, like for example, like the Rabbit, right?
Yeah.
The R1, the same with the pin. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here,
Yeah,
but
go
like
for it.
couldn't all of these functions really just be accomplished with, a phone and
Yeah.
AirPods?
No, that's one of the most commonly commented thing that was put in the Humane's Discord or on Twitter or anywhere, or even online, right, via video, YouTube or something. But also the same question that you've had been asked a ton. And quite frankly, yeah, it's true. I literally have the best phone in the market in my pocket, right? And they just launched Apple Intelligence, which we both know it still isn't that intelligent,
Unfortunately, yeah.
unless you call out to GPT, which is funny because guess what? I don't have to call out, right? I could just it works on AI pin. It just works. So my response to that is, yeah, you could do that, but the other side of me is like, I'm a D&D person. Like 99% of the time, my phone's on D&D, right? Like I don't care like what it is, work for watching somebody's place, whatever it is, it's on D&D. If you gotta get a hold of me, blow me up until you get a hold of me. So like, but with that being said, it doesn't matter. If I scroll up once when my phone's on D&D and I see all these damn notifications, I get sucked into that iPhone just like everybody else does. And that's what I always wanted to avoid, right? Like somebody who's been using a mobile phone for what, like 18 years now, that actually is smart, right? The iPhone. Over the last 6 years, for obvious reasons, it's gotten so bad, right? So every time somebody says it, I'm like, I am so sick of always being glued to my iPhone. And if I can just ask questions, take a picture, whatever it might be, and I don't have to pull out my iPhone, even though my iPhone camera is just not even like, there's no comparison. The iPhone camera kills every camera, right? So like, even though I have a better camera in my pocket, the fact that I pull it out, take some time to my thing, I have to do all of that. And that in itself, for me, it's like, not something that I wanted to do all the time. That's another reason why I got the product. So it's not, and it definitely wasn't clearly, as you could tell, not for everybody, because that also included the $24 subscription, right? And they're like, well, I have a phone, right? I already pay for my service. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not for you then, if that's how you feel, right? Like, so it just is a thing that we really liked and enjoyed, a lot of us, and we never had to I pulled out my iPhone so much more or less. I have so many photos on their service dot center that I took on so many trips the last year that my iPhone didn't even see. So that's what I would say to the people who ask those questions. It's like, it really was like to kind of pull you back into reality. I know that that's like a cliche thing because a lot of companies are trying to advertise that, like go touch grass. But like there are some companies who actually mean go touch grass, and shockingly Humane actually did a decent job at it. And that's why I got it.
Yeah, I certainly hear you on that front. It's always like, I'm looking at my phone, I'm just looking at a notification. There's something else. Oh, there's something else. And
Right.
you just, yeah, you do really get sucked in.
I guess two more questions for me. One is, do you see anything cool from Humane with Cosmos, the pretty cool name for an OS, and the suite of patents and much of the talent going to HP to integrate AI into HP products? You're like me, you're an Apple user, but do you think that there could be some cool things that the Humane folks do at HP that's compelling?
Yes, actually. So yeah, I kind of, they said they're clearly shutting down the AI pin side of things, but there is some really passionate people there. I know there's going to be a bunch more bureaucracy, but at the same time, they literally have their own unit. Like it's brand new. It's called HPIQ. So if they can keep a lot of their passion and have a lot of say from that department, that team, I obviously don't give a damn about printers, right? I don't give a damn about Windows computers either.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. With Cosmos, truly their AI bus is great. If you ask this thing a question, it'll do what it has to do like rather quickly too. So like if they continue to iterate on that and these models get better, we didn't even talk about the fact that this has Gemini Flash and you could ask it to like do things, right? So like
Right.
if they can, iterate, continue on all this and the models continue to improve and they continue to think about things, I do think there's going to be some great things going on there as long as they have the support and, the execution.
Yeah, I was looking at HP's website right now. I'm like, what, what do they, what do they do these days? And, like you
Yeah.
said, PCs, printers. And, like, I think there's a lot of Monitors and accessories. So maybe you can do something cool with a monitor or a webcam. I don't know.
I don't know, but like at the same time, true like geeky people in the mobile space would be like, we're still also bitter about Palm and how the
Yeah.
leadership cut that out. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if WebOS continued, it would have absolutely contended this all two, or all three of them would have been a good competition, right? So maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll be able to spin something off like an AI Pin 2 or some other products. Because from my understanding, did you see that video they had launched most recently about like the highlights of Cosmos and how it integrates into other products?
Okay.
You guys should really watch that. It's actually really good. It's on their Twitter. It essentially shows that they had Cosmos running in what was a Volvo, and then
Interesting.
they went into a house, and then it was on a TV, and then they were making like guacamole, and then they attached it to a device they had been teasing for like 4 or 5 months that we never got to see. That looked like a HomePod / Alexa, where you could dock it, and then it could be your assistant in the kitchen. So, and then they had a phone, and Cosmos was running on the operating system was Cosmos. It was operating, and it follows you everywhere. Like the whole goal that every company's tried to pursue for years, without all the guardrails and bureaucracy that the bigger companies have, right? Because they're running a model AI bus that can run any model, right? So if they can continue on that vision, and if HP stamps them through the HP IQ team that they have, please do something fun and good. Like, go for it. Because let's be real, as much as we love our iPhone, and people love other products, it's actually pretty boring in the industry. So I hope something else comes our way.
Yeah, of
More of
course. I mean, anybody would want to see their work continue, right?
Well, I would hope, but then
Yeah.
there's just a lot of people who just like straight up troll and hate nonstop, man. It's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, like the cynical, flip side of that is the, they were shopping around for an acquisition at a billion,
Last year
billion
from
bucks.
HP, right? Yeah,
Yeah, and then now it's discounted all the way down to 200 and something
not
million,
even. No, 117.
17. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like the cynical side of it is that, there was some string pulling in the background, like on the VC side, that they were basically like, look,
Yes.
you got to acquire this company. We
Uh-huh.
invested, like our LPs are going like, oh, come on, like, like what's going on? Where's the return on my investment? So they were like, look, buy this, do us a favor and acquire this thing just so that we can that we can show our LPs like,
True.
look, it's not a total loss,
True.
That's a tough situation too, because it seems like it's like you've got Humane the company, the engineers that are like the product side,
Yes.
and then you've got
The leadership.
the leadership that's like competing against the product almost.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like I've been through like an acqui-hire, right? Like my own, my own startup. And
Nice.
like the thing is like it was not on good terms. And it really sort of like reflects like I'm sort of going back like, yeah, this is basically like where we were at. And they're like, out of money, nobody's really willing to invest in us again. So like, what can we do? Well, we could always get acquired for like the designs and the patents and stuff, but who's going to acquire us? And so like you sort of go in the background and go like, look, we got to do something here. Let's not exit on like such a bad note. So like that's sort of like the cynical side, right? But of course, there is always like the value proposition that, a brand new startup like Humane could bring.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that this is the other way around
Same.
where, their HP is looking at Humane like, look, the actual products, the physical hardware side of this company, maybe we'll take the patents, but like the product clearly is not really working out in terms of cash flow.
Yeah.
But everything else that you've done is interesting.
Right.
And we would definitely like to look at, any of the other ideas that, like you mentioned, the hardware that Cosmos runs on, right? The whole home integration stuff. I mean, no doubt HP would want some slice of that. Their main business being enterprise, but they still have a really good consumer business.
Yeah.
So there's no reason that they wouldn't look at this and go like, 1 billion, maybe a little bit much, but for the right price, we could consider it. And so, I'm hoping that's what happened here, and
Same.
they would continue on whatever they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, same here. I wish them nothing but the best. We're just really bummed we couldn't see the existence go any further for any of us.
Yeah.
But HP, I wouldn't count them out. They've been around for a while. It's just, I think their challenge there, and I wish them, I hope them the best. Is when I think of anything consumer, I don't think HP.
What's something uh, in the scale of AI pen that exists still that catches your attention in a similar way? Is there anything?
Literally, no.
Yeah, I didn't take
Like
long.
the only comparison really that you can draw is like the
Yeah.
R1, right?
Do you say the R1?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the comparison. In fact, those guys are trying to get all of us some R1s as a reconciliation of this, and it's on Twitter. They're doing like a giveaway. It's like 500 of them. So that's cool for them. That's really kind of them, and I respect that and the kindness of that. However, it's another thing like Pocket.
Yeah,
My pockets are already full. Like I have my phone, my keys, my, belongings, and like other things that you might have when you have a family or dogs, right? Like it's an interesting device, but quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, it's nothing compared to AI Pen. I could not emphasize that anymore.
Do you think that Humane tried to do too much with the hardware of the AI pen rather than like, do you think like maybe they should have just come out with literally a pin with like nothing else on it, like not even a projector, not even like literally just a microphone, and just gone like, look, this is, what we think ambient computing should be. It's the thing doesn't interact with you unless you interact with it, and then sidestep, everything else like the overheating and whatnot.
There's a lot of, I'll definitely answer this question. We can have even more conversations about this down the road if you'd like, or if you join the Discord and you see all the other people in there. Yes, but I do respect, and I'm so happy that they moonshotted this into existence and somehow shipped it, even though it was a little early for the software side, right? The whole ideas and feedback that we as a community gave them pretty cohesively across the board was, if you do a Gen 2, keep the Gen 1, reduce it some, put like a polycarbonate type of, closure on the device, the Gen 1, right? And, keep the laser or don't, right? And do what you got to do. And that probably would have worked just fine. And they could have reduced the price on it. You probably saw, they actually did a whole nother model. It was the same model that they got originally, but they made it cheaper and included less accessories. That was what, like $4 or $5.99, right? And that was a good offering. But if they didn't moonshot this product, which again I'm happy they did, they could have absolutely not even had the laser display. They could have just had voice. They could have just not had it be a phone. They could have just had a data connection only, right? So no text and no calls. And they could or could not have, it depends on, how you look at it, not even included a camera, right? And that could have helped probably bring the price down a little bit and kept costs low for them as well. That might have worked, but at the same time, that's the coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? And who knows what they tried initially. They definitely did moonshot this. Even though it ended the way it did and they're at HP, and who knows what that looks like in the future, this product is incredible. And you got to see it in person to really understand it, like how beautiful it is and ingeniously designed it is and how small it is, right? So I don't know. It coulda, shoulda, woulda, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like to link up like after this, and maybe on
sure.
Discord or something. Yeah, let's
for
chat
sure.
after this.
Yeah, totally. Sounds good. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I obviously wish nothing the best for those at Humane HP. We're just a little bummed, and we'll see if we can keep moving this forward, and we'll see and hope that they do something cool at HP that maybe we can get in our hands one day.
Yeah, Humane
Yeah,
Packard.
absolutely.
That's actually really funny. Awesome.
How should we refer to you in the introduction for this segment?
You want to just refer to my Twitter or something?
Yeah. Okay.
Or you can give me a fake name. I don't give a damn.
Cool. Okay.
That might be, if that's easier for you guys. You can give me.
We have Mr. Hewitt Packard here.
Yeah, we have Mr. HP.
Mr. Packard.
But
well, thanks for taking the time to do this. This was really cool.
No, really cool. Thanks for having me. Peace out.
All right. Thanks so much, dude. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Peace. Bye bye.
All right, Sophia. So yeah, that interview was very fun. More of those to come in the future.
Yeah, the insight is like, I don't think I would have gotten that kind of insight just otherwise, because there's always like the enthusiast community around these sort of more niche products always interests me so much, because there's people who want to see them keep on going, like keep on being able to use the thing that they've bought, right? Which, like that's not the first time that's been done in the public. Repebble, as mentioned in the interview, that's like a very concerted effort by the original founder, Eric Menchikowski, to basically revive the old Pebble smartwatch hardware, which was great, like by all accounts. The first really consumer-ready smartwatch that got wide support. So I'm really interested in seeing what, the Rehumane community will do with the pin, especially because it's so locked down, actually.
Yeah. Say repin. Go with that.
Repin. Yeah.
Repin.
Let's repin that pin on that shirt. Hey,
Pin on
yes.
that.
Yeah, more of those bad puns to come.
Yeah. So just a few more topics to get through for this episode. Things that we had otherwise. And so first thing I want to mention is, I think you watched the movie as well, but I mentioned last week that I was going to try to check out The Gorge on Apple TV Plus, the new movie, and I did. I watched it in Vision Pro, and
of course,
with my
Vision Pro user,
with my daughter asleep in my lap. That was really cool. It was like I was at the movies, but didn't have to drag kids to the theater, so it was cool. And all I wanted from the movie was like dumb fun, just like mindless, don't think too hard at all. And I was pleasantly, satisfied with what I got back. I like a good soundtrack, good music, good talent, good story.
It was a good movie, actually. I was pleasantly surprised as well. I sort of clicked on it. I saw it in my the new movies thing on the TV Plus app, and I was like, oh, okay, might as well watch this. Zach talked about it. Should be at least okay. And it was pretty good. I am, like I said last episode, I'm a huge fan of Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she is so cool. But it was really cool. I will say it felt a little bit like she was out of her element, like playing like a super sniper, like really sort of rugged type of person. But also, I don't mind seeing more of her, so I'll let it slide.
Yeah. I was no spoilers, but I was happy with where the story went, that it wasn't as simple as it could have been.
Yeah, that's for sure.
From the premise alone, it could have been pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
That's what I was in for, was the straightforward, narrow premise.
Yeah. A little bit more thinking never hurt anybody. So I'm also glad that they sort of went where they did. We mentioned that there was a cute Apple robot lamp last time, but I'm sad to bring the news that it is not going to be in production anytime soon. Supply chain indicates that they're not, in fact, working on a similar lamp. So unfortunately, my Pixar dreams are dashed and my entire week has been ruined. So thanks, Tim Apple, for that.
You've got to robo lamp this thing into existence.
In other AI news, Anthropic is reportedly unleashing a new model. It's supposed to be a hybrid model that will automatically switch between deep reasoning and fast response. And the killer feature, apparently, is that there's going to be like a slider where you can interactively adjust the thinking level of the model, which has never been seen before. I mean, we talked, in past episodes about how confusing OpenAI's model selector is. You got to dig like 2 menus deep into, do you want this or do you want that? But I think Anthropic's approach is probably the correct one. You can interactively adjust like how deep of an answer you want something. And if you're in the same conversation, like, I think that's very valuable. Like, you could just have like, quick answers, and then it's like, okay, I want you to think more about this now. So use your brain power, or use your compute power.
Yeah, I found this interesting because, just last week we were talking about ChatGPT-5 and how the goal for OpenAI with GPT-5 is to combine, fast compute and deep think, like the reasoning models. And we talked about, that's going to be tricky because how do they know which one you want without giving you that control? But also
Right.
It's more confusing now with having, they always just use every model to be fine, but they've got like 8, a lot to work with. And then you made the comment of like, yeah, and what's Anthropic been doing? Like, it's been a while since we've heard from Anthropic. And like, I don't know, later that day or the next day, there was an appearance from the CEO of Anthropic, and then his view was like, I mean, it was a teaser for what I guess will be Claude 4, and it was
Yeah.
also a really clever line of like, we've been kind of baffled about why there needs to be two different models or separate models for reasoning and fast responses. Like, it's just kind of a
Yeah,
shot at like OpenAI of like, what are they doing over there?
exactly. Yeah. Why does there need to be like so many models? Like beyond the fact of well, you need to release more models just, because like it doesn't really make sense from like a user perspective and also from like a pricing perspective. Like now you have to specifically select like which models you want, but then give up everything else. Like, why can you not just have, one model that you throw everything at, but be able to tell that model, I want this in such a way, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on with other companies too. Like, I mean, if you just look at OpenAI, the talent that co-founded and like led the company for all these years that left and they're doing their own thing. There's a lot of companies popping up from those people, and so I've started doing research on who the different players are and what they're doing, and so I hope to in the next month or so have a better understanding of that to bring to the show. But in the meantime, I just realized I thought about the problem of how like single mode a ChatGPT conversation is. Like, if you want to switch models because you weren't happy with the response that you got, it's a new window. It's like a whole,
Yeah, it's a totally new conversation. Then you
yeah,
gotta build back that context, and it's like, come on.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Anthropic's new model is supposed to outperform O3 Mini on quote unquote business programming. We don't really know what that technically means, but I assume it would mean that it larges, or it, I would assume that it means it will analyze larger code bases better. It will have a larger context window. Of course, we're always pushing for a larger context window. And yeah, just be better at, business related tasks like number crunching, graphs, I assume. Yeah, we'll see when it launches. I'd be really interested to see the benchmarks, especially because I believe Grok 3 just came out, and there are rumors that they have cooked their benchmarks in certain ways. So, I'm not saying anything here, but like there's a good opportunity for another player to come along and maybe show OpenAI what's what.
yeah. My sort of perception of Grok at this point from XAI, Elon Musk AI company, is that Grok doesn't do any one thing better than another company, but it's caught up with what different companies are doing in one product. And so,
Yeah. I think it'd be really interesting to see if they continue to just be at a point of like feature parity with every other company, because like all of this research, right? It's open source. Like you could just go and build your own model based on the existing like new research that's come out, and you would basically be like at parity with everybody else. But like in order to advance, you need to do something different. And I'd be interested to see if anything actually different comes out of XAI.
yeah,
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
they do have one thing that's very different from XAI and Grok 3, which is, I don't know if you saw this, but it's a little bit disturbing, but it's the first time Grok has had a voice, and it's uncomfortably close to Elon Musk's voice. It's like
God,
not a clone, but it's his speaking patterns, basically.
it's there is something there. Like
Like, he's their
that there
Scarlett
is.
Johansson, as to OpenAI's, you know,
Yeah, right.
voice that they had to get rid of. Her voice.
Yeah. Like let's be honest, like that it's very likely on some level intentional.
Oh yeah, it's like minor trolling, or like,
Yeah.
it's memey, but it's like I couldn't do that. I couldn't use that.
It just anyways.
Yeah, that's an area where I can't separate the companies and the person. When the company's product is voiced by the person, basically, it's like no.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about the Rabbit R1 in the interview. They've just showed off something that they said they were going to launch with, when they did launch, but they did not, which is they showed their agent doing a full end-to-end task, clicking around on the internet and doing a thing. But interestingly, not on the Rabbit R1 device. So they actually just, typed a regular prompt into a regular prompt window and then showed the thing doing what it was asked to do on a computer. Sorry, on an Android phone. So that was a little bit like you were supposed to launch this when you launched the R1, and you said it was what the R1 was doing, but actually it turned out that it was not what it was doing. And now you're showing this to us and saying we've just achieved this. Like, what is
Yeah.
really going on here?
And it's kind of the same time that, like, I mean, just a month ago, ChatGPT, OpenAI put out their first agent called Operator, and it uses, a browser. It's like ChatGPT operating its own browser with what you tell it to do. And the reviews for like how it functioned really were kind of mixed. It's like you can't do a whole lot without having to have input throughout the process. And then their second agent is Deep Research, and now Perplexity has come out with a product called Deep Research that's supposed to be like similar but free and much faster, which means not as deep to me.
Yeah, like
But
it sort of goes back to like what I was saying. It's like like when something comes out, like it's fairly soon that like everybody else like catches up or
they're
like
all
shows
arriving at
that
the
they're
same
doing the
pace.
same. Yeah, like so, there's how much new research is actually happening, I wonder. But yeah, the R1 is supposedly going to be capable of doing this pretty soon. Don't know to what level, but we'll see. Maybe they can finally place a DoorDash order. I'm sorry, I don't mean to throw shade on it, but it was pretty funny when it couldn't.
Right. The same day that the news broke that Humane was being sold to HP, news came that Rabbit was selling the R1 in Best Buy stores. It's like
Yeah,
tell of two AI products.
yeah,
One gets sold to HP. I mean, it's dead, but the company sold to HP, and the other one is now available in Best Buy stores to purchase.
yeah. When it starts being available in Best Buy stores is when the product is probably close to being ready for mass consumption, I think.
It's like they've arrived at 1.0, and it becomes sort of a um, impulse purchase for gadget nerds
Yeah, right.
like us. It's like, oh, I'm bored. I really want to satisfy my need to be geeky, and oh, the Rabbit R1's in stock. I heard about that at CES in 2024. Wonder what it's all about. How is it improved? What does it actually do? How's that?
Yeah,
The teenage engineering hardware. It's like, what does that wheel do? Let's play around with it for a little bit and then not use it again for a
yeah.
while.
I will say I like sort of want these AI gadgets, just to like have on display. Like I've got like some displays back here, but yeah, if you as a listener or a watcher have any one of those gadgets that you want to offload, I'll pay for shipping, give you a shout out.
Like the framed pictures of sort of like the taken apart iPhones.
Yeah.
That, but for the Humane AI pen would be pretty cool too.
But yeah, that would be really sick, actually. Yeah.
Right. Because like, and something else that, is just sort of a theme that's stuck with me for the last year or so is that there's these AI devices that can't do what they really want to do because the iPhone is like the
Yep.
things that does those things, and that it's you know not open to playing with those AI devices. Apple's long game is like, let's improve Siri and make it do those things eventually. Meanwhile, like there's other forms of AI, the voice assistant components that can do the things that you wish Siri could do. And even with Apple Intelligence like 1.0, basically, which isn't even fully arrived yet, it's like, no, you still can't match what you could do with this AI like hardware products. Yet
Yeah.
you don't
It's
let
like,
like that technology be part of the iPhone in the same capacity.
yeah. And I don't know if it's like the bureaucracy that exists within Apple, or I mean, it's clear definitely not like engineering effort because like, some of the best engineers I know work at Apple. But it's like, how is it possible that it still does not work as advertised when like other phone like Google, Gemini is great. You can do a bunch of stuff with Gemini and it mostly just works. Like, I don't know.
I kind of think it's that on an engineering level, it's people like us who like want to will this into existence and like have the capability but not the power.
Yeah.
And then there's the corporate side of Apple, like at the top. It's like, well, what does that do to our bottom line? Like that's not a priority right now.
Mm,
If Siri was like a subscription product, then it'd be different. But it's not, and so Apple's not going to give it that same attention because that's not on the doesn't do the same thing for the bottom line.
yeah. The only thing they're really risking is like the optics of if they succeed or not. But I guess the optics of like everything else, like the hardware and all the other like new features that they gotta launch, and they have timelines that go like 4 or 5 years out. Like all of that stuff has to sort of come into play, and I guess that's maybe more of a priority than trying to get Siri to not be dumb, I guess.
And I think the thing that I would be
No, Siri just activated.
I think the thing that I would want to happen, or that I'd like, if I could just like say like, this is the technology that exists, but the pieces are not allowed to touch yet,
Yeah.
or maybe never, is like, I find ChatGPT voice to be really impressive and like a really good experience of just leave it there on the table, speak to it when you've got your query, responds, you can do nothing after that. It'll still keep like waiting, and then you can add to it. It's really nice. And it's not the latest GPT models. Like, I think it's 4 and not even like 4.0 or 4.5, which is coming soon. But, and I think Sam Altman said like voice won't be 4.5, but maybe with 5, like it'll, be updated. But just the voice component is like, you can ask Siri to ask ChatGPT to run a query for you. But the closest thing you can do with ChatGPT voice is map your home button or use a Siri shortcut, voice phrase to try and do that. But even with using your action button, for example, to launch into ChatGPT voice, there's the component of unlock your screen. If your passcode's activated, it's not a voice only interaction. You've got to first have that input before it can be. And so like, I just want to have the experience of what you get with an unlock, like a phone that's not, screen off or dimmed and locked with ChatGPT voice, but have that be what, I say, the assistant's name or whatever other command, and have that be what comes through my AirPods or from like my car stereo when my phone's paired over Bluetooth, or my watch, or the HomePods or whatever. Like, I just want that. And the only thing that needs to happen is like, the pieces need to touch, and they're not allowed to yet. Like ChatGPT voice, like Siri can talk, like has a piece of ChatGPT in it, but ChatGPT will never have a piece of like your iPhone, like local data on it. It's Siri that's going to be able to do that,
Yeah.
says. And I think that's too bad because you like thing that I just want, like, oh, it could work this way. It can't yet, not because of technology, but because of policy and resources, like how they're organized and everything. So
I think what would be like something that would go a long way, I think, is if there was a settings switch, and Apple would never do this, but if there was a switch in settings that was basically like prioritize ChatGPT over like Siri intelligence or whatever. And I'm not referring to like Apple intelligence. I'm referring to what Apple calls like Siri intelligence or something, where it like determines like which service to reach out to. Like if you ask it a question, does it reach out to like Wikipedia or like whatever to grab the data. If there's a switch that was just like prioritize ChatGPT for basically all requests, like, and then don't ask me if you should reach out to ChatGPT. Like, I think that would resolve a bunch of pain points around that entire interaction, and just in general, like, be a smoother experience than like ask Siri something. Siri doesn't know. It asks you if you want to go out to ChatGPT. You have to say yes, and then it asks the same thing in ChatGPT, and then the interaction starts from there. Like, that's so many steps.
Yeah.
Just reduce it down to just ask and, receive. That's it.
Apple's very sensitive about having the experience with Siri right now be, if you talk to Siri, it's always Apple that's listed, like is Apple's servers and Apple's privacy policy. And you need to give permission in each time for it to be ChatGPT. And if you're signed out, like they obscure your IP address and it's as good as it's almost servers. I mean, not to say like privacy doesn't matter or like counselors don't care about privacy, but like that's such an implementation detail that like I just want it to work this way. And I think they've gone too far into the privacy side of things than like the what can it do, function, like what customers want from it side of things.
Yeah.
And
It's
as it
like at
comes to
the
like,
expense of everything, like the actual experience.
yeah, like if you're a ChatGPT customer, you pay $20 a month, you sign in with an Apple Intelligence with ChatGPT, like you authorize it to use your account so that it doesn't forget between sessions, like theoretically, your information. To me, it feels like there's not a whole lot of connect, even if you're a paid customer and you're signed in, of like ChatGPT on Siri. Like to me, it's just like, I don't feel like the ChatGPT app, for example, has any recollection of what I asked Siri about through ChatGPT. But just, just the state of affairs right now. But as it comes to Apple's approach to offering, like prioritizing providers, closest they've come to that is with music preferences. And there's no user interface. There's no way to say, I prefer Pandora for radio and Spotify for on-demand music. It's, you make a request and you can say using Spotify, using Apple Music, using Amazon, using Pandora, whatever. But that's per request. If you just want to say play, music from whatever, like play whatever music, Siri will ask you like, okay, do you want me to use this more often? Like there's no interface for this is my like rank list or this is like the category, like Amazon's assistant like would have this as providers, use this for podcasts, this for streaming music, this for radio, versus on demand. And Apple's version of that is Siri will ask you from time to time what your preferences are and learn from what you say. And it's like, that's so nebulous and obscure and no one can trust it or believe it or even know it happens. So
Yeah.
so far from that. I mean, I think you just get away from like what you think Apple should do or should be allowed to do. That there could be a scenario where regulators probably in Europe only, but would say, Apple, you're giving preference to Siri over other voice assistants, and you've got to open up in the same way that you do with NFC chip, or alternative app stores. You've got to open up the what this hardware button, which voice assistant it goes to, and you've got to have a system level which voice assistant do you want to use by default. Apple would never do that because it just makes sense for them to improve Siri instead of like throw it to somebody else. And if they do throw it to somebody else, make it part of Siri to do that, as we see with ChatGPT. But if that would just like had to happen overnight, then it would be cool. I think there'd be lots of problems where like Siri is still more capable in terms of doing basic like device functions or even just like adding to your reminders list, stuff like that. And so it would be a choice still. There's not one winner that can do all the things, but that it would be compelling to option of like, if I hold on the button on the side of the phone and I have the option to talk to this voice assistant without requiring my passcode put in, and it can do things like that, then which would I choose to use? Right now if I could just use ChatGPT voice without having to authenticate my passcode and everything, like just have it be a voice first thing, like, say I'm wearing the Apple Watch, so it's me. That would be cool. But we're not there yet. So
Yeah, not there yet.
Yep. More to come in that
Yeah.
department in the years to come, I imagine.
More on AI hardware. Figure, the robotics company that previously demoed the Figure 01 robot in factories, just released this sort of, I don't know, this video creeped me out a little bit too much, but in this new video that they released, it was basically two of their Figure 02 robots, I believe, and they're in a kitchen. Somebody comes and basically tells them, like, gives them a bunch of groceries and tells them, like, you figure out where to put these groceries. You've never seen these groceries before, but organize this and put them away. And they do it, which is, albeit slowly, but it's crazy. This is sort of like the oh wow and the oh no moment for me, I think, in terms of like humanoid robotics, where like you can give them stuff and they see what it is. And supposedly without human intervention and like supposedly without human intervention, they just figure out what this is and put it away. They open refrigerators, they put the ketchup bottle on the top shelf, they put the fruits in the basket, they put stuff in the drawer. They hand things off to each other, which is a whole other level. And every time they do, like they sort of look at each other, like they move their head and then they lift it up and they look at each other while they're hanging, like right after they hand stuff off. And there was like this instance in the video where I think one of the robots was handing off like a bag of something. It was like something squishy, and the other robot almost like dropped it. Like they almost missed the handoff, or like he got the handoff. I am saying he, like it got the handoff and it almost drops it, but it like gripped it at the last second. And then they both look at each other, and it felt like like the robot handing off was like, "Hey, watch out, bro! You almost dropped it." And then the other one was like, "I know, bro. I'm sorry." It's like one of those moments. Oh my God, like this is happening. I don't know how to feel about it, but just watching this interaction happen was getting to the iRobot level for me of like, I don't know if this is the future I want, but I guess this is the future we're getting, and ready or not, I guess it's coming.
That's really cool. I haven't heard of Figure before, and I haven't seen this happen.
Yeah, I've been following them for a little bit, mostly from their videos. I watched a couple of their like demo videos in maybe like a year or so back, and I remember thinking, okay, this is impressive. I'll be more impressed when they have these things like, up and running in like a factory and like doing actual work, which they have done like a few months back or something. They have like a contract with, I'll put the company up here, but they have a contract with like a major manufacturer and they're running these robots. And now I guess they're coming for the home with the second generation robot, which runs their, new end-to-end model, which will supposedly handle everything that you could ever want in a house and whatnot. And yeah, it's happening. It's a little bit creepy, but here we are.
Which major tech company is going to buy this company? It's not like that's...
Yeah, I know, right? That's the question. I sort of feel like they would be okay. Like they might go the route of Boston Dynamics. We've got robot dogs, now we get robot human replacements. That they also have like on their heads this forward-facing screen, but instead of like, you would think like you would put like, sort of human like features on there. But no, all they have is like the Figure logo, and they've animated it so it sometimes when it's thinking, it looks like it's sort of like spinning. That is maybe arguably even more creepy. Like this thing interacts
it's not
like a
very
human.
personal, right?
Yeah, very, very impersonal, which I guess on some level is good, but on another level is even worse. I don't know. It got me feeling very conflicted.
It's the equivalent of the emoji with like the thinking hand on the chin,
Yeah,
just put that up instead.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's my week in AI hardware. Non-AI hardware. I saw this open source project on GitHub. It's basically like recreating the macro data refinement computer, but in like a form that it can like fit on your desk as like a little thing.
So like the Severance PC.
Yeah. Yeah, the PC for
cool.
Severance. This is what it looks like up here on the screen for those viewers at home. But yeah, there's like a little model on your desk, and it'll go and do like the number sorting, and it looks pretty cool. I might build one and put it back here.
I saw someone on social media post a mock-up of what a Severance like MDR microdata refinement themed Apple Watch face would look like, and it's like all the numbers, but then like the say it's 230 and like 2, 3, and 0 would be like the largest of those numbers, and it would just like animate and change like that.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could get custom watch faces on the Apple Watch.
Yeah. I mean, Apple does a little bit of IP where they've got Snoopy and they've got Mickey and Minnie Mouse and they have some Pixar characters.
Yeah, but like,
Do some internal Apple TV Plus synergy there.
yeah,
But yeah, custom's the way to go for sure. Because I mean, someone can make that. They can muck it up,
yeah.
you know.
My second plea to Tim Apple today
Yeah.
is make the watch face. You're already doing ads with State Farm. I mean, what else can you sell out, right?
I haven't seen that, but I did see that Severance and State Farm are
Yeah.
doing the thing with that's something else right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. This has been fun, and I always love to hear about things that you saw this week that you thought were interesting that I had no idea about because I suddenly become a podcast listener, and I enjoy that very much. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing our Week in Apple section.
Yeah. So many Super Bowl there with well, today.
Yeah. Well, that's our episode for this week. We hope you enjoyed the interview with the Humane Community Insider, Sir 23. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.